How are you today? So, I just picked up a book. Today, we're going to continue Africa is My Home. Where did these girls finish last time? Some people were unkind, and that was where we stopped last time because we were looking at people that were unkind and we told ourselves, no matter how people are unkind to you, you need to make a choice whether you're going to be unkind to them. Stick to those that are kind and leave those that are unkind. And today we're going to continue the story. We finally left in November 1841. On the day of our departure, Mr. Tepan and several others of our dearest friends traveled with us on a steamer out on a ship. The gentleman, thank you, sir, from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done for us, I said to them. Finally, after we said the Lord's Prayer together, they boarded the steamer and headed back to New York. I would miss them all. They have always been so good to us. And so I waved and waved, my eyes full of tears, until I could no longer see them. Then, taking a deep breath, I turned my face east towards Africa, towards home. I love that feeling. The crossing was uneventful, the striking difference from the previous one. Then had been in a filthy dark hold, while this time I was in a pleasant cabin. Then I had little to eat, while this time I had all I needed. Then I barely moved, while this time I walked the deck every day. It was light instead of dark, heaven instead of hell, possibility instead of dread. After 7 weeks at sea, I knew we were near Africa, and I began studying the horizon for a sign of land. The others invited me to play games, to read, to sing, but all I wanted to do was to watch for my homeland. When I first saw it, I thought my heart would leap out of my throat. Then I stayed quiet until it was more evident, until I was sure. Then I called out excitedly to the others, Africa! 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 With that, all my fellow former captives rushed to the rail when the dear details of our homeland began to emerge, and so did our tears. With sobs and cry, we pointed out to each other, look, over there, palm trees, yes, palm trees, and see, a small house, it is not, and there, over there, a canoe, I don't believe it, I hear the drums, yeah! By the time we arrived at Freetown Wharf, the scene was quite extraordinary. Somehow, many Mendel's people had heard of our arrival and were singing and dancing as the ship came off as we came off the ship. I saw a man who looked so much like my father that he made me jump. However, at the second glance, it was clear that it was only wishful thinking. No matter, I thought, whether I see my dad or not again, I'm home. After so many years in America, let me show you the pictures. That's a picture of them near the land. After so many years in America, I was among my own people, among people who looked like me, who spoke my native tongue. I saw women who looked just like me, carrying babies on their back just like she had. Men who looked like my fathers, farmers ready to go out on their rice field, children who looked like my brothers and sisters. I turned and smiled at Kago and Tema. They were my sisters now. There was war in Mendeland, so it took many months until the mission to Kwame Mende was established on the islands of Buto. Most of the Amister men went back to their villages, but their children stayed at Kwame Mende. I continued my studies with the hope that one day I would be a teacher at the mission school. Kwame and Tema and I became closer than ever. It was a wonderful time for us. Unfortunately, it was not a wonderful time for the Americans who were with us. After Mrs. Raymond had lost a baby and became more and more distrust, Mr. Raymond decided she had to return to America. I was sent with her. It was with mixed feelings that I, now 16 years old, once again crossed over the ocean to America. Mr. Temper and Mr. Raymond felt I should be properly trained as a teacher, and so instead of immediately sending me back to Africa, they sent me to Olymp College in Ohio. It was a miserable time for me. I missed Africa terribly. I would not stay in this country for $1,000, even for $1,000, were it not for the education. I told a friend, on the worst days, the days when it was cold ice, nothing seems right, I will creep up into my room and simply cry, and cry. Everyone was kind, but they didn't understand. When I had been in America before, I had Kwame and Teme with me. We had been through so much together and understand each other in ways no one else did. At Olimbo, no matter how kind and generous the friends I made were, none was African. No one had experienced what I had. They were not Kigame and Tema. At last, I had to go back home to Africa for good. I became a teacher. I married. I was content. Some days were trying, but others were delightful. And I wrote a friend, my heart is filled with the love of God to do good to people. Then came a day more joyful than other. The smallest girls were practicing their penmanship, and the older ones their arithmetic. I stepped to the classroom doorway for a moment and looked out at the tall green palm trees reaching into the sky, and the spreading mango tree in front of the school, all ready for a boy to climb. Looking up into the clear blue sky, with a few clouds coursing through, I said a short prayer of thanks. After all I've been through, here I am, home to my beautiful country. A slight sound to my side made me turn around, expecting one of the little girls needing my help, but not at all. Two men were standing there. Magulu, one of them said softly, my Mendel name, the name my father and my mother gave me, a name I have not heard in years. How come we come from your father? He continued. Only the war had kept him from coming himself. He wanted us to find out how you were. He wanted us to ask you if you forgive him. I leaned against the doorway. My father? I said, Kemke? He is alive? They nodded. But of course, I forgive him. He's my father. He did what he had to do at that time. This will make him happy, they smiled. You will see him soon. Now, I am home. And that was the man coming to deliver a message from her father asking for forgiveness. I dream of Africa, of a people I love, a country I admire. I dream of Africa and I dream of home. And this is her in Africa, grown up. Kids, I learned a very important lesson from this. It's possible that it's your own family member that will hurt you, like it happened to the child of administered. Her father was the one that actually sold her. But she's back. But the difference is she's back with a changed heart. She met other people that helped her walk through the journey of forgiveness. And she was able to forgive her father. And forgive all the people that have hurt her. Peradventure, somebody's out there that have been hurt by the issues of racism, or hurt by the issues of prejudice, or hurt by the issues of unforgiveness, or hurt by the issues and the evil in this world. there's still a place to forgive. Other people that have gone ahead of us have gone through terrible things, like she did. But she still found a place to forgive not just the people that put her on the ship, but even her father that sold her. It's a lesson for all of us that there are always evil people and there are always good people. Like Big J said last week, let's stick to the good people and let's move away from the evil people and let's have a heart of forgiveness. Because in forgiveness, there's hope, there's joy, there's a new beginning. Thank you for joining us on Reading with John. Myself and my girls really enjoyed this book, and I hope you did. This is the last part of this book, and I really have enjoyed reading it with you. Bye.
Let's talk about Black history. Who are the famous UK Black innovators? Today we are looking at Dr. James Africanus Beale Horton. James Beale Horton was born in the African country of Sierra Leone in 1835. His parents were once enslaved Africans of Igbo heritage. He was educated at the CMS, Church Missionary Society, in Freetown. In 1855, at the request of the British War Office, Horton, along with William Davies and Samuel Campbell, who were also studying at the same institute, were chosen to further their medical training at King's College London. Horton studied at King's for 3 years and then attended a further year at the University of Edinburgh in order to earn an MD. Horton's thesis was entitled The Medical Topography of the West Coast of Africa. In 1859, he became the first African to graduate from the University of Edinburgh. Wow! So he was the first person. While at university, Horton renamed himself Africanus to demonstrate pride in his African heritage. After completing his studies, he went back to West Africa and entered the Army Service Corps as a staff assistant surgeon. During his time there, he traveled to various posts across West Africa and was involved in both Ashanti Wars of 1863 and 1873. Horton achieved the title Sergeant Major in 1874. While in West Africa, Horton became increasingly concerned with politics and political thought. Racial theories by European travelers at the time alleged the inferiority of Africans, which Horton actively contested in his books. For example, in 1868, his books entitled West African Countries and Peoples, British and Native Vindication of the African Race, dealt with false propaganda. In 1880, just at 45 years old, he retired and returned home, where he founded the Commercial Bank of Sierra Leone, the first commercial bank in the region. The reason for establishing the bank was to help develop industries within Africa by funding local enterprise and supporting infrastructure plans. Horton spent the rest of his life committed to supporting African education by providing scholarships to promising young Africans. In 1883, Dr. James Africanus Beale Horton died at the age of 48, and at the time was deemed the wealthiest man in Africa. He left large parts of his wealth to the development of scientific and education in Africa. He is honored by Edinburgh University as the first African to graduate with a memorial plaque in Butchell Place, and a crater on Mercury is named after him. So it's named after Africanus. Dr. Africanus Horton had a very colorful life. Being born around the same year the transatlantic enslavement trade ended, he was fortunate to gain a scholarship to receive further and higher education. That said, he must have had to work hard to achieve extended education. He did not waste it. Horton was proud of his heritage, hence naming himself after the continent he was born in, but also challenged those who wrote negative propaganda about his people. Horton's life was also shows us that all people of African descent have a long history in serving the British Armed Forces, too, often forgotten about around Remembrance Days. This is the picture of Dr. James. I learned that we could do anything to help Africa. We can. I also learned that we should fight propaganda and lies so that we can change Africa too. Thank you for joining us on Reading with Joan. Please share, comment, like, and love. Bye!